Hi, everybody. Welcome to the JRoots Global Day of Testimony. We've been following from last night now the stories of 6 million of people who have perished and all the survivors that, thank God, managed to make it through the war and be able to inspire and give us the messages that we've heard up until now. We are very, very fortunate to have Rena Quint from live from Jerusalem with us today. I've had Rena Quint live from Piotrków in other times that we've been in Poland, and today, thank God, she's in her apartment in Jerusalem, and we're about to interview to Rena. Rena?
Lisa. No.
Oh, just one second.
I am terribly sorry. Somebody is at my door, and
It's
I
okay.
didn't want to answer.
Okay, Rena, today being Yom Hashoah, please tell us your thoughts, first of all.
Well, today has been very different from the other days. Yesterday, I had 4 Zooms. At the age of 84, I've gotten to be technically pretty savvy. And I spoke and I answered questions, but today was different. Today, as I stood outside on the balcony by myself, and normally I wouldn't be by myself, I would be speaking to Madreshet Moria or to one of the other schools, or my children would be with me. Nobody has been with me now for a long time because of this corona. I'm very lonely, but I'm not alone. I know I have wonderful children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and friends. And today, when I heard Kaddish on the television from the Knesset, they're going to be reading from my book. I wrote a book, A Daughter of Many Mothers, and they're going to read from the book, and they're going to be mentioning my parents' names and my brother's names. I don't even know all the aunts and uncles that I had. I don't remember. I was 3.5 years old when the ghetto started, 9 when the war ended. They're going to be reading, saying, to every man, there is a name. Well, I had 6 names, and I had 6 mothers, and I was a boy, and I was a girl, and I was 6 years old, and I was 10 years old. I was so many different things in my life that it's amazing that I know who I am. But I do know who I am. I know that I am a mother, I am a grandmother, I'm a great-grandmother, I'm an Israeli, I'm an American. I was a wife for 60 years. Unfortunately, my husband just passed away, and that makes me even more lonely. In the Haggadah, where we read just a week ago, Ani lo yechola. The bell keeps on ringing. People are very much concerned about me, but I'm not going to the door. And as I said in the Haggadah, it says, halach ma'anya, anybody who is hungry or anybody who is needy, please come in and share in our bread of affliction. Thank God, many, many times, I am not hungry, I am not poor, but I am very needy. I am very needy for the love around me. I am very needy for Eretz Israel to be safe. I'm very needy for this terrible sickness to get over so that we could get on with each other. And today of all days, I realized how much it affected so many of us. It wasn't just me. When they talked about the name, the first person who read was Benny Gantz, who's going to be prime minister. Then they had Rabbi Rivlin, President Rivlin. Then they had Prime Minister Netanyahu. Then they had Knesset members. Everybody in Israel, every Jew was affected and connected to the 6 million who died. Oh, not died is an easy word, who were murdered.
So, first of all, Rena, you need to know that you are surrounded by people who love you. And people who care for you very much. And there are thousands of people around the world that you have touched. You and your husband, Rabbi Emmanuel Quint, who was Nifta last year, both of you have touched so many people, whether it be through the teaching that you've done over the years, both of you, or whether it be from the people that you've had in your house, the thousands of people who have walked through your door for Shabbat meals, for weddings, for bar mitzvahs that you've hosted in your house, people who are strangers. You have totally, totally, totally taken what your life was before, and you have been able to affect so many people up until today with it. But I want to be able
Thank
to
God.
tell. Thank
Yes,
God.
thank God I have been. We've been blessed with a big house, and we've had weddings here for people, and we had bar mitzvahs, and unfortunately we had people whom we didn't even know sit Shiva here. And I'm hoping, I'm sure, I don't even know, I'm sure
Yeah.
that my mother and father are looking down from heaven, seeing that unfortunately they're not here, but their little girl, my mother was taken away me when I was 6, my father when I was 9, but every time I had somebody helping me. And I'm sure they're looking down from heaven,
So
seeing
let's
that we
take
are
you
living.
back now for those people who don't know your story. You grew up
Okay,
in Poland, in Piotrków, and this is one of the most incredible stories about the Holocaust of a woman who had so many people looking after her at various different times. But I want you to be able
that's
to
true.
explain to people now what it was like for you. At the age of 3.5, if I'm not mistaken, the war broke out in Piotrków. Piotrków being a huge Jewish community of over 10,000 Jews that were there at the time, with some of the grandest rabbis of Poland. Meir Shapiro, the founder of Yeshiva
He
Chachmei.
married my parents.
I
He was
remember
the
who
Tzaddik
married your
Kedusha.
parents.
Yes,
And we stood in the shul one time with the
yes.
documents. And Rabbi Lau, of course, who took over from Meir Shapiro, who led the community through the war and then will lead them eventually, unfortunately, to Treblinka. But you were
That's right.
3.5 at the time. And if you
I
can
was
now
three
take
and
us
a
back
half.
and tell us the story that took
I was
place.
3.5 when the war broke out. Right away, we saw the planes coming over, tanks coming in with the Nazis. People were lying dead in the street from the bombings and from the shootings. People were running in every way possible. My mother took us down to the basement where there were potatoes waiting for us in case they expected something like that. People ran to different towns. There was no place to run. Every place you ran, after a while, the Nazis came after. I lived in this house in Piotrków. I hope you can see it.
You
I
can see it.
found it when I went back in 1989. And in 1989, when I went back, there was still a mezuzah on the door. Can you see the mezuzah there?
Yeah,
Can
we
you
can.
imagine?
Markings.
And the Polish woman who saw in my apartment remembered my father. And I don't remember him at all. And she was able to tell us things. It was a very nice apartment in Piotrków. And apparently, I found a lot of material. If anybody wants to know how to do research, Barbara Sofer, who helped me write the book, did a lot of it. And I had a man from Poland, a lot of research. I found my mother in 1930 had a prenuptial agreement. That's pretty
Wow.
unheard of,
Yeah.
unheard of. And she had a store, she was way ahead of our time. When the ghetto started, Piotrków was the first ghetto that was organized. And right away, people had to wear yellow stars. They couldn't go out, there were curfews. There wasn't enough food. People in surrounding towns and villages had to move into the ghetto. So our apartment, everybody's apartment, got very crowded. Where a family of 5 lived, now you had 5 families living in this house. They took my father and other able-bodied people to slave labor factories. My father was taken to a glass factory, and they started a smaller ghetto because they lived in the barracks there. There were 3 factories in the house in our hometown of Piotrków. One was woodworking, one was tanning of leather, and one my father was, and men like my uncle were taken was glass factory. My mother was able to get us some food because she had some means. So she was able to barter maybe a coat or shoes to get us bread or potatoes. But one night, in the middle of the night, soldiers, Ukrainians and Germans, burst into our house, banging down at the door, saying, "Rouse, rouse, schnell. You've got 10 minutes to pack up whatever you need, and we have to run down these terrible stairs." What do you take of your life's possessions when you've got 10 minutes to gather everything up, never to come back? I don't know what everybody took, but I think that my mother must have been very busy taking my brothers and me. And we were taken down. People fell on top of each other. People were moaning. People were crying. We were brought into this big square. The square used to be used on Fridays and Thursdays to buy fish and meat and things for Shabbat. And 2,000 people had been gathered up from the ghetto. And from there we were beaten and we were herded like animals until we got to the synagogue. This is the synagogue that Rabbi Meir Shapiro and then Rabbi Lau
We've been very fortunate to have interviewed you many times from that synagogue.
It's a beautiful place. Unfortunately, Steve, there are no Jews left in Pietrzyków.
Yeah.
Not a one. So they don't need a synagogue. They made a synagogue into a library. And you can see me in the red jacket and the guy that I hired, and she hired somebody else to show us around Pietrzyków and find so many things that I found. In the back of that room, you can see a door. Can you see the door?
Yeah.
That door is very, very important to me. I was 6 years old at this time. The war started when I was 3.5. I am sure I must have been holding on tightly to my mother. I have no documents the way I have for other things, but that's what a little girl who's scared would be doing. I'm sure my brothers were holding on to my mother very, very tightly. I'm sure my mother must have been holding on to me. I don't know how this happened, but on the other side of the door, there was a man. I don't know who he was, but I think he may have been an uncle or someone I called uncle. My name was Fredja or Fredel at the time. And he beckoned to me and he said, run. You don't run when the guns are going at you, when the bullets are flying. I don't know how I let go of my mother. I don't know how my mother let go of me. I don't know how it possibly happened. Where did I get the courage? Maybe she pushed me. Maybe God pushed me. You can see the bullet holes in the Aron Kodesh.
Upside down, yeah.
Upside down, okay. You can see me opening the curtain and see where the ark was. And here you can see a better picture, but here I'm going to show you a picture, a bigger one, where you can see the bullet holes on the 10 Commandments, which is the picture of the ark, of the Holy Ark. The bullets were flying. My mother pushed me. The man said to run. I ran. I don't know how, but I ran out of that door that I showed you. That was the last time I saw my mother and my brothers and the rest of all those people in Pietrzyków. I forgot to tell you that 2,000 people couldn't get into the synagogue. So there was a little little school next door, as many people as they pushed in there, and the people who couldn't get into the building were taken out into the forest, given spades, and dug their graves. They dug ditches and they were shot into those graves.
Yeah.
My mother, my brothers, Rabbi Lau, and the rest of the people from Pietrzyków, from the ghetto, who were rounded up in that first roundup, were taken to Treblinka. When they got to Treblinka, they had to get undressed. Their hair was cut. They heard the screaming of the people who were in the gas chambers before them. When the screaming died down, they had other Jewish slaves pull the bodies out and bury them on the side of the camp. And then their bodies burned on open pits. Later on, Himmler made them open the pits and burn the bodies more so that there would be no trace of what the Germans did.
That was the famous survival of Piotrków to Treblinka, where Rabbi Lau stood on the train tracks and said the Vidui, the confession prayer, with his community of Piotrków and the community of Prešov, where he came from before. But you had managed to survive and come out, and I can see that you're at Treblinka now on your picture.
This is a picture of Treblinka with me, and this is a picture of Treblinka showing 17,000 stones
Yeah. Yeah.
Upside down. 17,000 stones to remember 860,000 people who were murdered in Treblinka.
So I
One
want
of
to
the
take you
people,
back to the story if we can. The story now that
okay,
you,
this is
here's your
the,
story.
well,
There's your
this
story.
man who told me to run took me to my father. What was my father supposed to do with me? First, he hid me.
And your
Then,
father was in the glass factory at this time.
that's right.
Right.
He cut my hair. He changed my name from Fredja to Froyam, became a boy. He told me I was a boy of 10 because boys over the age of 10 could work. Under the age of 10, or girls were useless, so they were just shot. I became a man who worked, and I worked very hard. Actually, Rabbi Lau and his brother Naphtali were in the same factory also. We brought water to the people. I don't think Germans cared about people being thirsty, but if you would faint because you were dehydrated and then you couldn't work, and their whole purpose was for you to work. We worked very hard. There were dogs all the time. There were people beating us all the time. People were just falling off. The ovens were so very hot. Terrible situation. But one day, when the Allies, the Americans, the British, and the Russians were coming closer, Germany decided to send people out of Poland. All the 6 extermination camps, Auschwitz, Majdanek, Sobibor, Chełmno, Belzec, and Treblinka, they were all in Poland. Why? Because 3.25 million of the people whom they wanted to kill were there. All the train tracks led in, and the Polish people didn't mind seeing full trains coming in and empty trains leaving. They
Can I
took
ask you a
us and they
question before we
brought,
carry on? Yeah.
sure.
Before you jump towards going towards Bergen-Belsen, can you explain to us? I mean, you were a young girl, and you've now been made to become a boy. In the glass factory by your father as the only way for you to survive. And I remember there was a scene, if I'm not mistaken, whether it was in the glass factory or maybe it was later on, where you were wriggling around at night. You didn't
Yes,
sleep well.
yes, yes.
But explain to us what it meant for you to have to leave who you were and become a new person.
I didn't know a different kind of life. I just knew what I was told to do to be alive, and you had to do this to stay alive. And as young as you are, you know the message that people give you. You have to stay alive. One day, we were in the barracks, and a German soldier was coming in. One of the men, I don't know who it was, put me under his blanket and put his feet on top of me so that they wouldn't see me. People always tried to help me, but I was very fast asleep and I was moving and wriggling around. The soldier who came in didn't see me. But when he left, this man shook me and he said, "You were terrible. You could have killed all of us. You were told to be quiet." And to this day, I'm so sorry that I, in my sleep, did not keep quiet. But it was a very,
You,
very difficult time to go.
you were
What?
carrying around 2 huge weights, the weight of trying just to stay alive, weight of being a different person to the person you really were, having a different name, different identity, different gender. Must have
That's
been
all
very
true,
hard.
but at least I was with my father.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden they came in and they decided they didn't want any Jews there. So they sent out those terrible cattle cars. I found a train schedule where my father was taken to Buchenwald. We were on the trains. We were put onto those terrible trains, nothing to eat, nothing to drink, and there was no toilet. There was one pail, a pail for 80 to 100 people. How long would that pail last? The whole thing slopped over, and we were sitting in the terrible cattle car on the floor with the feces, with the urine, with the smells, with dead bodies. It's just not describable. There's no way, even though I'm telling it to you, that I could believe that anybody could have survived this. Finally, we crossed over from the border from Poland to Germany, and we jumped out to the snow, and we used the snow to eat it, and we used the snow to drink it, and we used the light to look around to see who was still there, who was still alive. And while we were getting used to this, Germans on motorcycles came and they made an announcement that they're taking us to camps. My father realized that I couldn't go with him to a camp because when you go into a camp, everybody knew you'd have to go into a shower. Some of the showers were gas, some of them were water, but you had to get undressed to go into a shower, and they would see, as you said, that I'm not a boy, that I'm a girl. My father gave me some pictures, and he met a school teacher, and he asked her if she would keep an eye on me. My father promised to meet me in our hometown of Pietrico. He promised. Fathers are supposed to keep their promises. My father didn't keep his promise. I never saw him again. I never saw any of those people again. And I don't know if he was killed in Buchenwald or in an ammunition factory or any place else. I don't know anything about it. But I had those pictures, and I had a new mother. I don't remember her name or what she looked like. And we were marching abroad into Bergen-Belsen. We were marching in the snow. If anybody sat down in the snow, they were killed. If anybody fell, they were killed. When we finally got into Bergen-Belsen, just the way my father predicted, we had to get undressed and leave everything. I was holding on to my pictures. My father said they were important. One of the soldiers thought maybe I had a diamond or jewelry or money or something. I had nothing. I had pictures, very important pictures. Maybe just one picture. I don't know. But he took that thing, he took it and he tore it up and threw it away. Must have been very disappointed that I didn't have anything that he could use. He didn't need my pictures, but they would have meant so much to me. What did my mother, what did my father, what did my brothers look like? I don't remember any of that. When we
You have
came
no
out this,
pictures of your family any longer.
no, but if I can show you with my iPad, there's a picture on my wall of a little girl. Can you see
You
it?
can see it. Yes.
My adopted mother painted, and she painted a picture of my granddaughter, Shani, and everybody asks if that's me. Well, it's not me, but if she looks like me, at least let me believe that I would have looked like that. But I have no pictures. But I have
But the
lots
connection
and
to
lots
the
of
past is all gone. The connection
nothing
to your
left. Nothing, nothing. The first picture I have was in Sweden after the war. In Bergen-Belsen, every day people died, and women who had gotten a blanket after we got out of the showers, which were water, cold water, we were given an old uniform of rag, and every 6 women would get a blanket. Every day in Bergen-Belsen, the women would take that blanket, put a body in there, because there were bodies all the time, and throw the bodies someplace out on the open field. And you can see all the bodies. And one day I was very sick with typhus. Not only I, everybody was sick with typhus, because here we're telling people to stay far away from each other, not to catch the corona. Well, they're the lice. They jump from person to person. They jump from our hair to our skin, to our every part of our body. It wasn't just lice in the hair, lice all over, and lice created this typhus and the typhoid. And apparently I was very sick, and somebody somehow or other got me outside to stay out of those stinking barracks. And I was under a tree with dead and living people. And something happened that day I didn't have. I couldn't move. Typhus is a kind of sickness where you can't see and you can't hear and you feel there's just no, all I wanted was my mother. And the mother that came with me, she disappeared. My mothers were always disappearing. While I was lying there, other people dead and alive, something happened that never happened. Soldiers wearing different uniforms, speaking a different language came in, and they made with bullhorns, they said, "We are the British Army. We have come, we have brought you food and medical here. You're free, you're free. You can do whatever you want." What do I want to do? I don't understand what they're saying. I can't move, I can't see. The British had a very hard time. The first thing they had to do was build huge ditches, huge mass
to put all the
graves.
people who passed who were killed.
I'm sorry?
I'm saying to put all the people who had been murdered.
10,000 people who were murdered in Bergen-Belsen. It wasn't an extermination camp, it was a concentration camp. People died of starvation and of sicknesses. Everybody had typhus. And then they tried to feed people. 14,000 people died because their stomachs were so shrunk that they couldn't eat. And then the British burned all the houses, all the barracks.
Rena, do you know how much you weighed when they liberated you? Because they
No,
weighed
I'm not, I don't even know what weight meant. I was a little girl when it started. I had never gone to school. I didn't know how to read. I didn't know how to write. I didn't know how to count. All I knew was life in Bergen-Belsen.
Right.
All I knew was that you were looking forward to have something to eat or something warm or somebody to be near you. And they always were. But one day when the British came in, they brought us into camps and they put me on a stretcher and they gave me medicine. And because Sweden had not been at war, they welcomed 6,000 survivors to come to recuperate in displaced persons camp, DP camps there. And I was one of them. I don't remember the dates, but I have them with all the research that we did. I know exactly when I came to Sweden, to what DP camp, they called it nail camp. I was very sick. So I was brought into a hospital in a place called Hashoah. I'd been back there and they treated me very well. And a Christian couple wanted to come. They came and they wanted to adopt me. They brought me a doll, they brought me apples, they brought me candy canes, and they said that I could be their daughter. I desperately wanted to be their daughter, but the people around me said something I didn't understand. They said that I was Jewish. I don't know what that meant. Not only did not bother weight, I just knew I had different names, and they told me that I was Jewish. What it mean to be Jewish, I don't know. But they told me there's a place called Palestine, and my mother and my father and my brothers went to Palestine, and they're going to take all the orphans like me to Palestine, where I would meet my family. I did not know that nobody in my family was still alive. I don't remember this, but they took my temperature, and I have a temperature chart. Can you imagine? From 1945, Barbara Sofer and Hadassah found my temperature chart. Really amazing.
But you weren't taken to Palestine. You were taken in 1946 to America, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. I went after I got better from the hospital, and I didn't go with a Christian couple. I was taken to another DP camp. I met another mother. I'm always meeting mothers. And her name was Anna. Her brother had sent her tickets from America for herself, her son, and daughter. She sent her tickets and passports and money. Her daughter died while they were waiting to go to America, and I was waiting to go to Palestine.
If I can ask before you carry on, you mentioned her name, Anna. Is she the first one of all the mothers that you remember the name of?
That's right. And on my book, I have her picture from Sweden and the mother who adopted me in America. Anna took me, as her daughter. I got her name. Her name was Fanny. I got her birthday. I didn't have a birthday. I didn't remember my birthday. At 3.5, maybe I had a birthday, but I don't remember. But I got a birthday, which I'm still using today, even though I found my real birthday. But you can't change your birthday after 75 years. Nobody would believe you when you come into Kennedy or one of those places. How could you change your birthday? So it's easier just to keep the birthday of Fanny. I got a new mother. She was born in Germany. So my picture was put into her passport, and I became that child. And we came to America, and we saw the Statue of Liberty and all the big high rises. I thought I'd live in one of those because they said everybody lives in big houses. I didn't know what big or small was. They took us to a place, Anna's family, and everything was going along well. I was learning English. The children were playing with me. There was nobody being shot. We went for the summertime to a bungalow colony in the mountains. And I went to camp. I learned to go swimming. Nobody discussed the Holocaust. I didn't want anybody to know that I had lice and fleas and I was filthy and I had typhus and all these. I forgot about them, and I wanted everybody else to forget about this. One day Anna disappeared, my new mother. But all the women were good to me. They all gave me food. I had a bed. But a few days later, they came with a big car. They took me to a cemetery in Wellwood. Anna had died. Just like her daughter had died, and she died, so many people after the war had died because they were so physically and mentally and emotionally and she died. Everybody was
She's been
crying
looking
at the
after you
cemetery.
already for a number of years. I mean, she's been with you for a year or so, 2 years? How many years?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think in March, and this was, no, it was a few months that we came
But
to
you already
America.
had a connection with this lady.
Yes, she was my mother. She was my mother. And Stanley, his name was Sigmund, but he said he was my brother. I just accepted everything that came. I had a new mother, I had a new brother, but now she died and everybody was crying. I didn't know how to cry, and I didn't know you're supposed to cry when somebody died. In Bergen-Belsen, you just threw them out on the open field. And here there was one grave, and she died. And we went home to such Shiva, and her family really, they were nice to us, but they didn't want me. They brought over a woman who was going to take care of her child.
How could
They
you
knew what
trust
the,
anybody, Rena, after everybody you had come across, unfortunately, had left you or they died? And unfortunately, it must have been a real problem for you.
it was a problem. It was a way of life. And that's the only thing that we had. There was nothing else to go. There was no one to complain to. I didn't even know to pray to God at that time. But what happened is that at the Shiva, somebody suggested Leah and Jacob Globe, who were a couple living in Brooklyn, 46 years old, and they had no children. And they weren't going to have any more children. Maybe they would want to take a little orphan girl who came from the Holocaust. And sure enough, they invited me to come for Shabbat. And I came there, and they opened the door and they treated me warmly, and the house smelled of Shabbat, and they gave me milk and cookies. They had a little dog that I was very afraid of because I remember the vicious dogs in the factory, in the glass factory. They told me he'd be okay. He would like me. And I wasn't going to show that I didn't like the dog. I was afraid maybe they would like the dog better than me. If they wouldn't like me, would they send me back to those places? Would they send me to an orphanage? Would they send me someplace out? I had to behave. I did. They liked me, and I liked them. And they asked me if I'd like to stay and be their daughter. Well, of course I wanted to stay, and of course I wanted to be there. This time, not only I had a mother, but I also had a father, Leah and Jacob Globe. And they changed my name. They said Fredja was a Polish name, and Fredel was Yiddish, and Fanny wasn't my real name, and Froyam, when I was a boy, wasn't. They gave me the name Rena. Fredel means joy. Joy in Hebrew means Rena. And that's the name they gave me, and that's the name I've had since 1946. And I've had a very wonderful life. They gave me a good education. They gave me birthday parties. I had a wonderful wedding, and I was married to the most amazing man for 60 years. He was a rabbi, and he was a lawyer, and he wrote me notes every single day telling me that God spared me for him. And I have now 4 children. I have 22 grandchildren, thank God. I have 32 great-grandchildren, and we had a bris on Zoom last week, and a pigeon haben a month before. So thank God we're going. In 1981, there was a gathering of Holocaust survivors, and we came to Israel to look. Maybe somebody else in the family survived. We couldn't find anybody. But I wrote to a place called Arlson, which is a very, very good place to discover things. It's a tracing bureau. And they wrote to me my name, my parents' name, the camps that I was in case closed, child adopted in America. In 1984, we made Aliyah. We came to this wonderful country. And you cannot imagine how wonderful. Yesterday, I got the doorbell rings, and it's very often a delivery. I didn't order anything, but people are sending me food, and people, the Holocaust Society and the area City Hall sent me 3 cartons of food and soap powder and gel to clean my hands from this corona, and all kinds of advice not to go out. And because I am old, and because all Holocaust survivors are old, there's nobody after 80 years when the war broke out in 39 that is not old. And also a Holocaust survivor, and they are sending us food, and they are caring for us. And people call on the telephone, people whom I know and people who I don't know. And when I went back to Poland, I was scared, but I found my birth certificate. So I know I was really born. I found my parents' marriage license. I found my brother's birth certificates. I found my house. I found the factory. I found lots of things. And I thank God so much for giving me a good life with my family and my friends. And I think all of us have to love as much as we can, and pray that this is over and we could go on and make sure that Israel is safe and free, that any Jew who wants to come here should have a home and should be able to be part of our Jewish people.
Rena, you have brought us to tears, literally.
Thank you.
And I know that we're all thinking, number one, about you, and we would love to have been sitting in a room with you in person today. Okay, I know you were meant to be in Poland with the army today. Okay,
Yes.
and you were meant to be in the Knesset if you weren't in Poland, and you decided to join our Global Day of Testimony, which has gone around the world. And there are many, many people around the world who are messaging saying, thank you so much for bringing you to the screen. God willing,
thank you for caring, and thank you for remembering.
we care about you, and we want to just, number one, thank you so much. You know, your husband was quoted once as saying that there was only one time in his life that he was cleverer than you. That was the day he asked to marry you. And here, okay, you've taught us so much on this day, and I'm sure that he's looking down at you as well as your parents and your brothers and sisters. Okay, what a wonderful, wonderful woman has been brought to this world. I can't thank you enough so much for the amount that you've taught us just in this last 3/4 of an hour. God should give you strength to continue to teach, to continue to pass your message on, to continue to spread the word and love that you do to every single person that you come across. And may God be allowing us to be able to come and meet you in person very, very soon.
Thank you. I want to tell you that I have invited a lot of people. There's a program called Shabbat of a Lifetime, where people who want to eat with people, I do that, and I meet all kinds of people, Jews and non-Jews, many Jews who don't know anything about Yiddishkeit. I welcome all of you to come to Israel. Look me up and come visit me soon.
Thank you so much to Rena Quint from Jerusalem. There is much more content that's taking place on the Global Day of Testimony, the JRoots site on Facebook and on YouTube. Please keep following us, keep sharing, keep writing comments. Okay, this is running throughout the day, both Israel time continuing into American time as well, all the way through to 8 o'clock this evening in the States. Okay, well, we'll be finishing our programming that started last night at 7 o'clock. Okay, all the stuff is up on the channel, and Rena's video is, recording will be up as well the whole time for you to be able to watch as well and to go back to those moments, as people have already said.
I'm sorry, on what channel is it on?
It's on there. I'll send it to you, Rena. I'll pass it on to you on the WhatsApp.
It's pretty amazing at this age. I'm starting to look about channels and Zooms. I never heard of Zoom till 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago. All of a sudden, it's very much part of my life.
I think you're one of many. Don't worry about it. Okay, thank you so much to everybody, and we're going to end this meeting now.